And let's begin with security matters. No fewer than 152 security operatives, including soldiers, police officers, and members of the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, have been killed in attacks by non-state actors across Nigeria between January 2nd and May 13th of 2025. This figure, compiled from media reports and data from security think tank SBM Intelligence, underscores the growing toll of insecurity on frontline personnel in the country. Analysts say the real number may be significantly higher due to underreporting in conflict zones. The violence has not spared civilians. In a separate report, Beacon Security and Intelligence Limited disclosed that at least 4,702 civilians were killed and 3,739 abducted between January 1st and April 30th, 2025. And now to discuss this further, we're joined by security analyst at SBM Intelligence, Kehinde Giwa. Kehinde, it's good to have you join me. Let's just get started. I mean, what specific vulnerabilities in operational deployment could have contributed to such a high number of casualties?
Yeah, thank you for having me. A lot of factors are responsible for the high number of attacks, in the last 5 months on security personnel spread across the country. It's pertinent to mention that there's a geopolitical spread, to this attack. It is not restricted to the northeast. It is spread across the north central, the northwest, the southeast, maybe a bit of the southwest and the south-south. A lot of factors are responsible for this. Big intelligence gathering is a major key. Beyond all of the fighter jets, super Volcano jets, combat helicopters, this is a national red alert that the Nigerian government is taking for granted. Weak intelligence gathering is a major factor, playing a role, particularly in the northeast. Heavy deployments to volatile areas without backup is also another major factor responsible for these attacks. We've seen cases, we've seen incidents where security personnel are deployed to high volatile areas like Mati, which it has to be said that 300 towns, 300 communities presently, 299 communities have been taken over by Boko Haram in Mati. And about 2,000 residents have been displaced from these local governments due to the attack that happened last week. So a lot of factors are involved. Boko Haram and Israel are becoming increasingly coordinated, and they are deploying a lot of technology to their attacks, which the Nigerian government found difficult to resist and to forestall. So lack of technological advancement. Boko Haram was declared a terrorist group by the Nigerian government in 2013, and the Nigerian government has not deployed one single technological system to forestall these attacks.
Right.
It is also left to be seen how many more troops, how many more security personnel will be killed in the country. So weak intelligence is a major factor. Weak technological systems is a major factor. The fact that these troops don't have enough backup. We've also heard of cases where troops are deployed to high volatile areas, right, and once they are there combating the insurgents, they have little or no backup. And once they are absolutely, and two key factors is responsible for this increase in number of attacks. Number one.
Giwa.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Fantastic. I wanted to ask about insider threats or intelligence leaks, because you were saying that intelligence is an issue when it comes to what we're seeing in terms of those numbers. Could insider threats or intelligence leaks have also enabled these attacks? How are background checks or loyalty assessments conducted if you're going to factor all of this when it comes to intelligence and the Nigerian army?
The Nigerian army has, when you talk about the DSS are, they are the intelligence unit, but the Nigerian army have been lacking in major intelligence in forestalling these attacks. How do insurgents or terrorists attack a community for hours, 4 communities within the space of 24 hours across 4 local governments, and it is until when the mayhem has been perpetrated, that is when troops are now deployed. That is when security personnel are now deployed. That is is a major indication of lack of intelligence. There is not adequate information coming to the army. The army needs to increase the systems with which they gather the intelligence, gather the information with which these insurgents, operate. And once that is taken out, it gives the army, it gives the military, it gives the security personnel, more time and more room to completely foil these attacks.
Right. And are there, I mean, the inter-agency coordinations that we've seen, which is a joint task force that has been issued with military, paramilitary, intelligence services, have they also contributed to this operational lapses that we're seeing in spite of this joint task force effort that we've seen being deployed along the years to fight insurgency?
Well, they've not contributed to it because the major lapse has been, if you look at all of the joint security personnel that you mentioned, they have not done enough. The immigration, the customs, they've been involved in border control and border enforcement, the local vigilantes, the police have been, if you look at the modus operandi of attacks in times past, there's always been attacks on patrols. There's always been attacks when the troops or the security personnel are deployed to the communities. Then there is a clash or there is, a gun drill. But right now, the insurgents or the terrorists are going straight to the military installations. They are going straight to the military bases. They are going for outright attacks to demoralize the morale of security personnel and, to also loot and cut away ammunition like we saw in Iran in 2023. So this has not ended in any way. In 2023, there was a major attack in Iran and in Jikwa. All of the security personnel that was in charge of securing those local governments, local vigilantes, Nigerian army, they were completely decimated in that attack. Same thing happened last week again in Iran. And, after the attack, a lot of ammunition, was carted away. So these two key factors are responsible. Cutting away of ammunition by Boko Haram and, to weaken and to further demoralize the operational activities by the troops.
Well, I must say thank you, Kehinde, for just taking out the time to join us and give us a bit of insight on this data that SBM Intelligence released. That's Kehinde Giwa. He's a security analyst with SBM Intelligence.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Let's switch now to judicial matters, shall we? Now, Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, has announced the redeployment of 5 judges with immediate effect. The court disclosed that 6 judicial officers were affected by the decision. The judges include Justice M.G. Omar from the Enugu Judicial Division, who has now been reassigned to the Abuja Division, while Justice Sijani Garba Ringim has been transferred from Gombe to Yola. Similarly, Justice Shegun Bello, previously serving in the Abakaliki Division, has been moved to Enugu, and Justice Bala Khalifa Mohammed Usman has been reassigned from Yola to Akwa Division, or Kat Division, I beg your pardon. Now, while Justice Amina Aliyu Mohammed will take over in the Gombe Division after a redeployment from Moka. She assured litigants and lawyers that there is no need to worry about their cases before Justice Ekwo's court, whose suspension stemmed from allegations of delivering rulings without hearing the parties involved. The other judges who got suspended from the NJC includes Justice Aminu Bafa Aliyu of the Zamfara Division for 1 year without pay, placing him on a 3-year watch list during which he is barred from election. And now to discuss this, we're joined by Executive Director of Sterling Center for Law, Jide Ajire. Mr. Jide Ajire, it's good to have you join us. Let's just get started. Is this the redeployment of judges considered a punitive measure or an administrative adjustment under Nigerian law? And how does the NJC, I beg your pardon, distinguish between the two? Adeji, you have to unmute your device. We cannot hear you. That's Deji Ajare. He is a lawyer with Sterling Center for Law, the Executive Director for Sterling Center for Law. Deji, if you can hear me, we need you to unmute your device. We cannot hear you. Whilst he comes on, he's going to discuss with us regarding, he's going to give us a bit of insight following the redeployment of judges in Nigeria. On the screen there are the 5 judges that have now been redeployed for over NJC sanctions. We have Justice M.G. Umar from Enugu Division to Abuja Division, Justice Tijani Garba from Ringim from Gombe Division to Yola Division. We also have Justice Mabel Shegun Bello from Abakaliki Division to Enugu Division. We also have Justice Bala Khalifa Mohammed Usman from Yola Division to Oka Division. And finally, Justice Amina Aliyu Mohammed from Oka Division to Gombe Division. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, the family of the late Bameish Anyola, who was murdered in a BRT bus in 2022, calls for further investigations into her killings. We have the details just after the break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. Earlier, following the redeployment of 5 judges by the NJC, we're joined by Executive Director, Sterling Center for Law at Deji Ajere, to give us a bit of insight following this redeployment. Deji, is the redeployment of judges considered a punitive measure or an administrative adjustment under Nigerian law? And how does the NJC distinguish between the two?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. Well, transfer of judges is not necessarily a punitive measure, but typically it is something. It is an administrative measure to ensure balance in judicial postings and to fill vacancies in jurisdictions where there are needs. And well, in some instances, it might be for disciplinary purposes, perhaps where, for instance, a judicial officer is found to maybe be taking advantage of relationships with persons in a particular jurisdiction. Yes, of course, it could be done. And sometimes, especially in a country like ours, where naturally we would always have resource, and there will be a struggle for resource and posting, a struggle for postings and resources. Some jurisdictions or divisions may be preferred generally over some others. So of course, naturally, you have quite a lot of people who prefer to be posted to Abuja, Lagos, and some other cities. And so yes, it could be used for disciplinary purposes, but mostly it is an administrative issue. But the transfers are sometimes necessary and important. What is worrisome is the manner and timing of the execution of the transfers. Those are the things that require that we should scrutinize the process further.
And at this point, I have to ask, does such redeployment infringe on the principle of judicial independence under sections 6 and 153 of the 1999 Constitution as amended?
You see, ideally, like I have said, since it is an administrative thing and it is sometimes necessary to ensure a balance, it may not necessarily infringe on the principles of judicial independence. But where, for instance, the head of a court is using such measures to either move away uncooperative judges, oh yes, then at that point, one could say there is already an infringement or an attempt to infringe on judicial independence. But again, I think this ordinarily should not be a problem if we had a system where everybody is committed really to the rule of law. And while there may not be any publicly known guidelines for the for the administration of the transfer of judges, what the NJC should do is to have some sort of unified guidelines or rules and to ensure that those guidelines are adhered to by the heads of court, such that it will become very difficult for any head of court to take advantage or to abuse the powers, the discretion they have to redeploy judges.
Right. And finally, I mean, you said earlier that sometimes it is administrative, and so do judges facing disciplinary sanctions have a right to appeal or seek judicial review of the NJC's recommendations?
The NJC's recommendations for discipline?
Yes. Do they have a right? Do
yes.
judges, when they're facing disciplinary sanctions, do they have a right to appeal or seek, judicial review?
Absolutely, absolutely. Maybe the disciplinary processes of the NJC are administrative processes, and any administrative processes in Nigeria is subject to judicial review. And so, any judge who feels aggrieved by the disciplinary measures either initiated or effected by the NJC can, of course, approach a court and apply for judicial review. And up until the Supreme Court, there is nothing that stops the judges from taking such actions. However, if the punitive measures, for instance, are like transfer of judges, like you said, I do not know, especially since there are no publicly known guidelines for the transfer of judges. I do not think any judge will be able to appeal or disagree with such postings. However, again, one thing that must be said is that it is important that every stakeholder in the judicial and justice system must understand that all of the actions that are taken by these actors have an impact on public confidence. And where these things are not properly handled, they will frustrate litigants, they will prolong trials, they will deepen the perception that is already in the minds of Nigerians that our justice system is inefficient. And so it is important that all the stakeholders, from the NJC to the heads of court to the judges themselves, and of course, lawyers, do everything that they can to ensure that the processes are seamless, such that cases do not necessarily need to start de novo. I mean, the heads of court can ensure that those judges that they are transferring complete the cases that they have started, not just the ones that they have reserved for judgment, but in fact, those ones that they have part-heard are completed before they eventually transmit to their new locations.
Well, I must say, and finally, you just talked about the implications as well, but the NJC has said there's nothing to worry about, especially for the judge, Judge Akwo, who was now been suspended and also kept on a watch list. They said all the cases will still be heard and it will go smoothly nonetheless. But what are the legal implications if the NJC sanctions were found to be procedurally flawed in any of those judges' case or not in compliance with fair hearing principles under Section 36 of the Constitution? What could happen?
Well, I think it's clear. Any administrative processes that fails to take cognizance of the principles of fair hearing as enshrined in our Constitution and the two pillars of natural justice, which is that one should not be a judge in his own cause, and that the other party must be properly given an opportunity to be properly heard and to defend himself. Where there is, if any evidence of non-compliance, the natural implication is that that process itself will be, of course, declared as flawed and, of course, cannot stand. And, while I don't know, I would not say some courts may actually require that there should be a fresh procedure. Others may just outrightly countenance that procedure outrightly. But what is important to know is that they can actually approach the courts and request for a review of the administrative process.
Well, we'll wait to see how all of this will pan out in the coming days. Well, whether it's a cleanup, whether it's administrative duties or much more, only time will tell. I must say thank you so much, Deji, for just taking out the time to join us. Deji Ajire, he's Executive Director for Sterling Center of Law. Let's move on, shall we? The family of the late Bameish Anyola, who was murdered in a BRT bus in 2022, has called on the government for further investigations into the killing of their sister. While the BRT driver involved has been sentenced to death, the family of the deceased have called on the government to give their necessary support as they demand to carry out private investigations into finding accomplices to Bameish's murder. They, however, demanded the return of the deceased belongings while calling on the government to show concern through adequate compensation to the family.
If the family are saying, we want justice and you're not giving us justice, then give us fiat. Give us the power to investigate. Give us 6 months maximum. Others at large will be apprehended. We have the phone number of the killer driver. Give us fiat, whatever will come to you for, please grant us.
So what we are saying is that judgment was given, but justice has not been fully served. Because those culprits too, let them be identified. named and brought to justice. Now that judgment has been given, why can't the phone be returned to the family? It is our property. She bought it with her money. So why is anybody other the place, or why are they still keeping it? If they are still keeping it, they want to give us the impression that further investigation is still on to unravel the mystery and to know those 3 other people who are there inside the vehicle.
And now to more crime stories. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has arrested 120 suspects in Lagos over alleged internet fraud. A statement by Dele Oyewole, the EFCC spokesperson, said the suspects comprising 95 males and 20 females were arrested on Monday at various locations in Lagos State. Oyewole said the anti-graft agency recovered 26 exotic cars and expensive jewelry, smartphones, laptops, and incriminating documents from the suspects. The EFCC spokesperson said the suspects will be arraigned in court after investigation. I wonder what are exotic cars. And now to politics. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party in 2023 elections, Peter Obi, says he is only interested in a coalition against bad governance. Obi spoke on Monday during a visit to Duke Akamisoko, the bishop of the Anglican Diocese of Kubwa in Abuja. Recently, talks on a coalition to wrest federal control from the All Progressives Congress, APC, have dominated mainstream political debates. Opposition politicians have also been holding a series of strategic meetings to actualize the plan. His comments come in light of reports suggesting an alleged agreement with Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to serve as his running mate in the next general elections. The report also claimed that Atiku had purportedly agreed to serve for just 1 term and was open to formalizing this agreement in writing. However, Obi dismissed the report, saying those making such claims were promoting, quote, selfless or selfish political interest, end quote, that do not serve or benefit the country. Still on politics, Kaduna State's Labour Party, Jari South chapter, has dismissed claims that Senator Ninad Usman is no longer a party member. At a press briefing on Sunday at Fada Polling Unit 006, that's 006, Ward Chairman Hussaini Lawal and other executives labeled the allegations false, malicious, and politically motivated. Lawal confirmed that Senator Usman remains a fully registered bona fide member of the Labour Party in Jari Ward, with her polling unit officially recorded as Unit 006.
Senator Ninad Usman is a fully registered and bona fide member of the Labour Party in Jere South Wards, with her polling units clearly documented at polling unit 006 on Gampada, Kagarko, Jere South Wards. Any claim, suggestion, otherwise is false, malicious, and politically motivated. We have her membership records, and we stand firmly by this fact. Senator Ninad Usman's membership is not in question. Our party records clear, and we challenge anybody or anyone with contrary claim to present their facts. We will not allow political mischief makers to contract us from our goals to building a stronger and more progressive Nigeria under the great party, Labour Party.
Meanwhile, ahead of the council election in Lagos State, the Muslim community in Shomolu local government area has disassociated itself from a letter attributed to the Chief Imam of the community's central mosques, noting that it acted unilaterally. The letter, addressed to the ruling APC, suggested that nominating a Muslim candidate in the upcoming local government elections could spark religious unrest due to potential marginalization. While the community's leadership denies endorsing this stance, it describes the letter as a misrepresentation of the local political situation.
But we counter the letter. We have an administrative section and we have spiritual section. So administrative section ought to sign. I and the secretary at least ought to sign that letter, or any letter that is going out from Shomolu Muslim community.
If that letter will come from Shomolu community, I will prepare the draft, I will sign it, the chairman will sign, and other people concerned. We learned that the Chief Imam wrote that the first letter. We were not aware at all. He did it on his own. The Chief Imam knows what he has in mind, but he has also spoken on behalf of the committee at all. He did it on his own. The committee has written a letter to counter that letter.
We are not politicians. We are Muslim as a whole. But about politics, as far as we are concerned, we are not politicians, and we don't have any affair with the politics or the politician. Whoever is chosen from the above, we apply. All we are after is that there should be fair justice. You know, there should be fair justice. It should be balanced between the Christian and Muslim.
Still in Lagos, a two-story building under construction collapsed on Sunday in the Idi Araba area of Mushin, Lagos State. And one body was recovered from the rubble while 3 people were rescued and rushed to a nearby hospital for medical attention. While the cause of the collapse could not be ascertained, concerns were raised about the structural integrity of the building and potential safety lapses. Timothy Omosa reports.
Two-story building located at 96 Ishaga Street, Mushin, and under construction came crashing down on Sunday at approximately 3:30 p.m., according to eyewitnesses. The National Emergency Management Agency and other emergency responders report matches that of the eyewitnesses, who confirmed 3 individuals were rescued and are currently receiving medical treatment, with 1 fatality recorded.
The first developer that started the house, well, maybe it's a money problem between the families or whatever. We just noticed that they have left the foundation for more than 5 years it's at a foundation level then, before they can bring another developer. That one just come and begin to do skeleton, pillars and beams. I even told my colleague that this house is very, very dangerous the way they are doing it until we hear yesterday that the house is collapsed.
Preliminary investigations suggest that the use of inferior construction materials may have contributed to the building's collapse.
I was throwing my friend going to the bus stop when I heard the building collapse of the building here. But I think part of what caused the collapse of the building is due to the inferior materials used. The foundations, the rod, and everything is very much inferior to what is expected to be used.
Residents have called for stricter enforcement of building codes and regulations. They also expressed frustration over the role developers play in such incidents.
This is getting too much. It's not easy. How someone will want to build a house, you are not laid correct and good foundation. See the iron rod this contractor use, very worse. Instead of 16 mm, he used 8 mm. So any building collapse in Lagos State must come in and take care the land. So no more land for that the family again. Let our present governor now, Governor Sanwo-Olu, let him tell House of Assembly to reset that law.
As of the time of reporting, officials from the Mushin local government area were inspecting the site. The area was cordoned off, signaling the conclusion of rescue operations. Further investigations are expected to determine the full cause of the collapse and to identify those responsible.
For now, the site has been cordoned off to avoid people from loitering or coming into the collapse site. As of the time of filing this report, rescue operation is stopped. In Lagos 4 News Central, Timothy Omosa.
You're watching News Now on News Central Television. Coming up, drone attack kills 9, injures 14 at Shield Forces camp in Sudan. We'll tell you all about this just after the break. Stay with us. And you're welcome back. It's off to South Africa, where Nigerian televangelist Timothy Omosa has been deported from South Africa following his rearrest by immigration authorities in East London. The South African Department of Home Affairs confirmed that he will not be allowed back in the country for the next 5 years. Omosa was arrested in 2017 and faced a near-decade-long trial on charges of rape, racketeering, and human trafficking. He was acquitted on all 32 charges on 2nd of April this year and released from prison. A bit of legal perspective following his departure will mean and what it will mean for us going forward, or for the individual going forward. Following the NPA's decision to appeal his acquittal, we're now joined by legal analyst Elton Hart, who joins us live from South Africa. Mr. Hart, many thanks for doing this with us. Let's get your legal perspective. What was your reaction when you saw Pastor Timothy Omosa being deported back to his country?
No, for me, I wasn't surprised that he's deported, but I think Pastor Timothy Omosa, he voluntarily volunteered to be deported, because while he was in custody awaiting his trial and actually finalizing his trial, I think his permits and papers to be in South Africa legally expired, and the only way that he can actually remedy that and fix it is to actually go back to his native Nigeria, where he can then go to his various authorities to say that I want to travel to South Africa, issue me with a passport, and also then do the necessary visa applications at the South African embassy in Lagos. Then he would most probably come back to South Africa, because he was not a man that was in a hurry to skip the country or to skip the country through illegal means. He did it in broad daylight. It was like midday that he actually got onto a SAA flight back to Nigeria. So I think that in itself shows that this man is not afraid to stand trial, but obviously there was a lot of things that was happening in his trial.
All right. Now, this deportation comes at a time when the NPA intended to appeal to his acquittal. If they do that, then what happens to the case if he's not in the country?
Now, between South Africa and Nigeria, and we've always maintained a good relationship between the two countries, there is an extradition treaty that's in place, and Article 1 of that extradition treaty that was concluded in 2004 says that there's an obligation for, if South Africa requests an extradition of a Nigerian national to South Africa and vice versa, that it should be done, obviously following the right processes and everything. And I think with what has happened in the Bushiri case, we are now well versed to make sure that everything is in place. And already that article speaks to if a person gets convicted. So if the appeal is successful and the NPA gets the not guilty overturned to a guilty, then obviously they can set then the legal process in motion, sending it through the diplomatic channels to Nigeria to make sure it gets to the authorities in Nigeria, and then the deportation process should happen, or the extradition process. Because to bring him back, we need to extradite him.
Right. And what do you think will be the basis of the National Prosecuting Authority in this appeal?
No, if you look at the judgment, if you study the judgment, I think there was like, they say unethical conduct of the prosecutors, how they conducted them in Mr. Ntelwa, how he conducted himself in the trial, also the incompetence in not actually testing the evidence of Timothy Omosa. And in this case, the courts work on the basis that if he testified and that testimony of him was not tested, the court has to accept that testimony. Although the court might not subjectively believe him, they must accept it because there was not anything else put before court. And I think for the National Prosecuting Authority in South Africa to come and appeal this verdict of not guilty is already going to be difficult. I think the easier part would be to get Timothy Omosa back in the country. The difficult part is how they would get around actually appealing the judgment, because it was on merit and on law that the judge zoomed into, where they sort of have failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the acts or the complaints or the offenses that he allegedly committed was committed by him. And obviously, we know in South Africa, the criminal procedure says the accused person has no burden to prove that he's innocent. The state must prove beyond reasonable doubt he has committed the offenses.
Well, we wait to see how things will unfold, shall we? But also, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. Elton Hart, the legal practitioner all the way from South Africa, giving us a bit of insight following the extradition or deportation, I beg your pardon, of Pastor Timothy Omosa. Let's move now to latest updates from Sudan that says that 9 persons, including 7 military personnel, had been killed and 14 others injured in a drone attack on a camp belonging to the Sudan Shield Forces in the Al-Batana plain area. Now, the Sudan Shield Forces, which are based in the Al-Batana areas of Al Jazeera and Gidaraf states, fight alongside the Sudanese army. Their commander defected from the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, in October of 2024, a move that helps the army and its allies regain control of Al Jazeera state and most of Khartoum state. The statement posted on the official Facebook page of the Sudan Shield Sudan Shield Forces said the drone attack targeted facilities at their camp at Jabal al-Abayator in central Abu Tana. In the meantime, Sudan's army chief and de facto leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan has appointed former UN official Camille Idris as the country's new prime minister more than 2 years into a brutal war. Idris, a career diplomat and past presidential candidate, was the Director General of the United Nations World Intellectual Property Organization and has also served in Sudan's permanent mission to the UN. A statement from Sudan's ruling Transitional Sovereignty Council read that the chairman of the Sovereignty Council issued a constitutional decree appointing Camille Al-Taib Idris Abdul Hafiz as prime minister. In 2010, Idris ran in the presidential elections against longtime Islamist military ruler Omar al-Bashir. Libya's UN-recognized government on Monday said that it was pressing efforts to reach a permanent ceasefire. This is coming after days of deadly clashes in the capital and protests demanding the prime minister's resignation. According to the United Nations, the fighting last week pitted an armed group aligned with the Tripoli-based government against factions it has sought to dismantle, resulting in at least 8 dead. The Libyan Defense Ministry said in a statement that the efforts towards a ceasefire remain ongoing and that it was directly overseeing the process to ensure stability. The fighting had largely ended by late Thursday, according to an Interior Ministry official. And the UN mission in Libya, but without any formal ceasefire agreement. UN mission UNSMIL, it welcomed on Sunday the creation of a truce committee building on the fragile peace reached last week. U.S. President Donald Trump is scheduled to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Monday to discuss efforts toward achieving peace in Ukraine. The conversation comes as European leaders urge the Kremlin to agree to an immediate ceasefire to end the deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. The war, initiated by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, has led to a prolonged standoff between Russia and the West. Trump, positioning himself as a peacemaker, has pushed for renewed negotiations, prompting recent talks in Istanbul between Russian and Ukraine representatives. As part of a broader diplomatic effort, Trump plans to engage with Russian or Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and NATO leaders, while signaling potential further sanctions against Russia. Hundreds of anti-war activists gathered in the southern Israeli city of Dorot to protest the ongoing war and demand a ceasefire. The demonstrators marched toward the Gaza border, calling for an end to the violence and urging the government to prioritize reaching a hostage deal. The protest was organized by local peace groups who seek to promote dialogue and push for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. As the group neared the restricted area near the Gaza border, Israeli police intervened to prevent them from advancing further. The situation quickly escalated, resulting in confrontations between the protesters and law enforcement. Several participants were arrested during the clashes, reflecting growing internal tensions and public frustrations with the continued war and humanitarian toll.
With a very clear message, we want to stop this horrible war, and we demand our government to achieve a hostage deal and a ceasefire in order to save lives, Israeli lives and Palestinian lives, end this horrible war and destruction of Gaza, and starting to advance toward real Palestinian-Israeli peace that would secure.
If there's a call to action and to go to the border and to carry our shout from Sderot to Gaza border, that nobody wants this war here. There are people who refuse the war. There are Palestinians and Israelis who stand up together, who call for an end to this war, return of the hostages, end of the starvations, end of the bombardment. We have to be here.
The Lagos State government will begin full enforcement of its ban on single-use plastics SUPs from July 1st, 2025 as part of sweeping environmental reforms. Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources Tokunbo Wahab confirmed the move via X, saying it follows 18 months of engagement with industry stakeholders. The ban targets disposable items such as plastic bags, cutlery, straws, and styrofoam containers, all known for clogging drainage systems and polluting marine ecosystems in the coastal megacity. Lagos has earlier banned styrofoam in January of 2024, sparking backlash from businesses citing poor notice and few alternatives. However, officials say the full ban is critical to protecting public health and achieving long-term sustainability amid rising plastic pollution. Africa's table tennis sensation Hannah Gouda surged into the third round of the women's singles at the 2025 ITTF World Championships in Doha with a commanding 4-1 win over Brazil's Julia Takahashi on Monday, May 19th. The 16-year-old Egyptian star, who exited in the second round in 2023, showed maturity and tactical brilliance after losing the first set 9-11, dominating the rest of the match, winning 4 straight games. Takahashi had earlier eliminated Nigeria's Hope Udoaka, but could not withstand Gouda's intensity. With this result, Gouda becomes the only African woman left in the singles draw. She now faces a formidable test against 4th seed Wang Yiri of China in the next round. Head coach of the newly crowned Nigeria Women's Football League champions, White Ogboda, confirmed the technical crew's focus will shift immediately to continental stage. Bayelsa Queens secured the 2024-2025 NFL NWFL title with a commanding 4-1 victory over Niger Red Owls. Ogbonda revealed this earlier today on News Central Sports Show in the game and assured that his team would do Bayelsa State and even the nation proud.
Yeah, I think we just came back to, after the Super Series that we won in Ikene, I think to represent Nigeria in the CAF Women's Champions League, CAF B first and foremost before talking about the CAF Cup. I think we just got back to Yeneboa yesterday, so I think the player, we are asking to have a breather, let them take some rest, and after that, do me as a coach and the technical crew and the management of the team, we are still working to ensure that we have a good competition in the CAF B qualifier first and foremost. I think first we have to look at what we have here in Bayelsa Queen, look at the gray area.
And that's all we can take at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Concerns heightens as reports say over 152 security operatives have been killed in attacks across Nigeria in 2025. Family of the late Bameish Anyola, who was murdered in a BRT bus in 2022, has called for further investigations into her killing. And we also told you that drone attacks has killed 9, injured 14 at Shield Forces camp in Sudan. Now, do remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV channel 23, Star Times channel 274 on Apple TV, and stream us live 24/7 on YouTube.